Pat Mayo Experience UFC DraftKings picks and preview. Unfortunately, for all the Pat Mayo fans out there, I will not be on this episode for very much longer because, as a part of the Pat Mayo Experience brand, I want to give you guys the best shot of winning the bucks on DraftKings this week. So, let me present Fight Network's Cody Saftic, Paul Shaughnessy, the Dog or Pass podcast. See ya!
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined in the Pat Mayo DK Live studios by my main man, Cody Saftic here, breaking down UFC 220, Ngannou versus Miocic for the baddest man on the planet. It's going to be a wicked awesome card from Boston, Massachusetts. What's your overall take at the beginning of this here?
Well, I like how you put it's the baddest man on the planet, because quintessentially, that's what this is. And back when Mayweather was boxing McGregor, they were going back and forth, you'd see like the odd UFC guy be like, man, I want to do some boxing too. I remember Stipe is going back and forth with Anthony Joshua, which, by the way, love Stipe. Terrible idea to box Anthony Joshua. That. But he has a good line. In there, he says, Anthony Joshua's like, you're not worth my time. Stipe's like, listen, buddy, you're not even the toughest guy in England. I'm the toughest guy in the world. And that's exactly what the UFC heavyweight champion is. In the UFC, it's not like they got the best fighters, but certainly for the heavyweight division, if you're the king of the UFC's heavyweight division, you're the best heavyweight on the planet. And this is the fight that's going to determine that. I mean, you've got the 35-year-old champion, Stipe Miocic. We know how good he is. He's retained the crown already. He's defended it. He's, kind of solidified his spot as a top guy.
He's going for the record of most title defenses in the heavyweight division.
Which, by the way, is extremely difficult.
Which is insanely difficult because you're going up against insane power every single fight.
That's exactly it. And when you're thinking about the greats of MMA, like, he's never going to fight Fedor. At this point, he'd kill him. I think we all know that. The Cain Velasquez fight's interesting, but Cain being off so long, we got to give the advantage to Stipe. And then what he did against Junior Dos Santos is, amongst what the best guys in the world have done to Junior. If you want to go out there and make a statement, you go out there, you KO him in the first round, and that's what Stipe does. Now, just like any fight, any MMA fight, when you get in there and you're fighting another human being with 4-ounce gloves on, you're playing with fire. Any one shot could change it. And with heavyweights, that's times 10. And with Francis Ngannou, times 10, that times 10 is times 100. You know what I'm saying here? Like Francis Ngannou, I think everybody knows this already. The guy packs a mean punch. But is that enough to win a heavyweight crown? If these guys fight 10 times,
yeah, it is.
There's no doubt if they fight 10 times, Francis is going to win some of those times. But we got to play the probability, and the probability is that Stipe's got as much of a shot to win this fight. He's dog money. I feel like you got to take it. Well, that being said, it could blow up in your face completely.
Let me tee this up a little bit. Francis Ngannou is the favorite over Stipe Miocic. Miocic's been off for quite a bit of time. I'm sure he's at the gym getting better. Ngannou is minus 175 on the betting line, plus 165 to Miocic, 8,900 on DK, 7,300 for Miocic on DK there.
It's great value on DK too.
On DK, here's my argument. The Miocic, you gotta have some shares of him. If you don't have Ngannou on a lineup, you gotta have some Stipe, because if Stipe wins this fight, I don't see any possibility that he doesn't pay off, that he doesn't get like 80 points at least. Like, he's probably going to finish him, or he'd be able to secure some takedowns, or if they go 5 rounds, over the course of 5 rounds, he's going to land enough strikes that like it would compile. There's no way that he doesn't reach value. And Ngannou, on the other hand, if he goes out, he lands that one big uppercut, and it's new champion,
Denzel.
Game over.
Frankie Murder, baby.
He may do it so fast that like he gets 100 points, but Alhassan and Makhachev and a couple other guys up in his tier end up outscoring him, and he doesn't end up on a winning lineup. I don't think either one of these guys is really cash viable. I don't really want a part of that from a cash game perspective, because Miocic, I know the price is right, but
if he loses,
he's getting iced early on.
Yeah.
And Ngannou, this is obviously a big step up in competition. This is the first guy that he's fought that is durable and technical. He took on Andre Arlovsky, and Arlovsky was, the most technical guy up till that point, but he's chinny. Same with Overeem, same thing. Most technical guys ever taken on, but super chinny. Now he's taking on Stipe. I think Ngannou gets the job done here. The improvements that we've seen, his footwork, his speed. When you watch this guy hit pads, it's a sight to see. Like, you don't see 265-pound men hit and move like he does.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But
And I think that we're going to see a new champion. I have wagered a sizable bet, 4-unit bet, on Francis Ngannou to become the new champion. But on DK, if you're going to have a bunch of lineups, I don't think you necessarily have to have Ngannou. And Stipe, you should probably mix into a few. If you're going to only have one lineup, I would actually argue just to avoid this fight, probably altogether.
So you're playing Ngannou, correct?
Playing a little bit of both.
And are you playing Ngannou straight up in terms of the money line?
Oh, betting? Yeah, I already bet money line.
But it's just straight up money line, right?
Yeah,
so
because
if you
I
think
just
he's gonna win, if you think he's gonna win, why not take the KO prop?
Because it's only like 10 points. It was like minus 165 for the KO prop.
Yeah.
Just like there's if something weird happens. We thought that Stipe Miocic versus JDS, there's no way that this goes 5 rounds. That fight went 5 rounds. I don't want to be caught in a situation.
The second time it did not go.
No, I know. The first time is exactly what I mean.
Sure,
Same with, there's been a bunch of heavyweight fights over the years, which is, Mark Hunt versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva 1. Oh, there's no way this goes 5 rounds.
Okay, fair.
It goes 5 rounds. You don't want to be caught,
Yeah.
unless the value is a lot different. You don't want to be caught in that situation.
Right.
Just pay the extra little bit of juice, and you have the straight money line pick. So, big bet on Ngannou. Have a little bit of him on DK, but you got to mix in a little bit of Stipe if you're playing a lot of lineups.
Yeah, okay, so let me ask you a question, though. Look at Francis Ngannou's last 4 opponents. I just want a very simple question here, Paul. Who's got the best chin? Alistair Overeem, Andrei Arlovski, Anthony Hamilton, or Boyan?
Well, we go back to Blades.
No, that's going back 5
Blades.
fights. That's going back 5
Go back
fights.
to Blades.
I want to know who's got the best chin of his
Blades
last 4
would have the
opponents.
best, but
Not of his last 4
why
opponents.
does it matter about the last 4?
Because I'm really starting to think that Francis Ngannou might be like the flavor du jour, right? You look at him and he's super menacing, and you watch his fights, and yeah, they're KO, not only KO of the year candidates, but that Alistair Overeem fight, it sticks out in your mind as like one of the greatest KOs you've ever seen.
Yeah, because it was.
Yeah, absolutely, right? But yes, they're taking on guys that have been KO'd multiple times. Alistair Overeem, you touch this guy, he's going to go down. Andrei Arlovski, you touch this guy, he's going to go down. Anthony Hamilton, come on. This guy's down before he even gets in the cage. So he goes out there and he's blasting these guys in the first round, and it's easy to get the hype going, right? Look at any fighter that's ever been a cog in the machine, the marketing machine for the UFC. Wow, look at this highlight reel. Wow, he's blasting guys. But similar to last week in Doo Ho Choi, everybody's on Doo Ho Choi. A lot of people are on Doo Ho Choi. Why? Because you look at the highlight reel, you look at the fact that he won his 3 fights in the UFC before losing, obviously, to Cub Swanson and then later to Jeremy Stevens. Their first round knockouts. They're spectacular. So now everybody's behind this guy. You haven't seen him get exploited yet, but in your mind, how's he going to get exploited? He's just going to touch this guy and he's going to knock him out. We know for a fact that Francis Ngannou struggles. If there's any area he struggles in, it's in the wrestling department. Prior to coming to the UFC, his only loss in pro MMA was because he was getting taken down and out-wrestled.
You can't think of that way with this guy, though. This
Why
guy got
not?
in.
Why not?
This guy
Why
got
can't
into
you?
the game so late.
Well, that's an even worse
he's
thing.
an insane athlete that we've talked about it over the years here. Is just every single fight, the improvements that he makes fight to fight. He's not the same guy. You can't go back to his fight against Luis Henrique and be like, Luis Henrique took him down. Oh, he looked stiff as a board. Because by the time we got to the Blades fight, he looked that much better. Every single fight, this guy's improvement rate is through the roof. There's nobody that we've seen at the heavyweight division that improves at this speed, ever.
Fair. But go back to that Luis Henrique fight. He does get taken down, and then you're saying, oh, he got way better. Then the Curtis Blades fight, he does get taken down twice. Okay, don't worry, he's getting better. Technically, Anthony Hamilton took him down, although that was his detriment. So those guys are taking him down. Now you look at the last couple fights. Boyan's not going to take him down.
Boyan's a scrub.
Arlovski certainly doesn't want to take him down. That's not really his game.
Arlovski should have tried to take him down.
They all should have tried to take him down, and that's why Stipe is different than those guys. Overeem's a striker.
I don't know if he can hold him
Arlovski's a
down,
striker.
though. He's giving up 20 pounds of muscle. This guy's super strong. Remember when Anthony Bumbleton tried to push him up against the cage, just like, you're dealing with a different type of strength.
Yeah, but it's also a different type of athlete. If you look at Stipe, and to me, you obviously always have to look at a large number of fights. If you look at the fight against Alistair Overeem, yeah, dude, this guy gets dropped before getting up. But when he does get up, he realizes, oh, why am I struggling with Alistair Overeem? I'm just going to take this guy down. Now, mind you, it's a guillotine choke. Who knows why he goes to the guillotine. But as soon as he gets the fight to the ground, that's where he's comfortable. But I take it back to when he fought Mark Hunt in Australia. Mark Hunt is as hard of a puncher as anybody.
Slow, though.
I get it, and he's old, and he obviously isn't the athlete of the caliber that Francis Ngannou is. He's a lot older. But it's the mindset. It's the mindset of when you go into a fight with Mark Hunt, why try to prove a point? Why go in there and say, wow, everybody says what a great striker this guy is. I'm going to try to knock him out. Don't bother. And Stipe doesn't bother. He keeps the fight standing long enough to dump him. And like you're saying with Ngannou, what can he hold him down?
I think Ngannou's sitting there going, oh, this guy's just going to stand and strike with me. No.
Well, his last
You see those highlights? He knows exactly what he's doing. Stipe's going to come across, try to take him down. Maybe he takes him down the first time. And if he gets on top, gets good position, he's got some vicious ground and pound. That's why I'm saying, like, DK, I think you need it.
4 units is a lot to play on a straight up on Ngannou.
I like it.
Okay, well.
I like it. And new. Cody's all in on Stipe Miocic, apparently.
Hey, my Croatian brethren, I can't go against
Oh, there's the rub right there.
No, listen, he's the underdog. How often do you have the heavyweight champion, the baddest man on the planet?
It's like you're basically like me wearing like a Khabib Paprika here.
No, it's not that bad. I'm just saying, honestly, dog money, first of all, I got to go Stipe. It's a 50-50 fight that in my mind, so I'm going to take the dog here. I think Stipe's got many paths to victory. He even says it best himself, and I agree with it. Francis Ngannou might be the better striker, but he's the better all-around mixed martial artist. He can wrestle. The guy comes from a wrestling pedigree. He is a great athlete, so it's not like he's a complete stiff. And if the fight's standing, it's not like he has no idea what he's doing. He just has to get the takedown. He can set up the takedown. And going back to that Mark Hunt fight, he goes 5 rounds. His cardio looks fantastic. And even in the 5th round, when Mark Hunt's completely zapped, you know, okay, now I can strike with him a little bit. He just takes him down. He's a smart guy. On the embedded specials, he likes to play up goofy Stipe. But he's
a great guy. I like Stipe. Actually, probably the nicest UFC fighter I've ever met when we worked at Fight Network together.
Super good
Like
dude.
the coolest guy, the one guy on the roster you'd want to go have a beer with. Like,
how about
nicest guy in the world. That doesn't pay the bills, Cody.
We'll leave it at this. You like Ngannou? I disagree. I like Stipe? You disagree. But Stipe on DK, we both agree.
You got to have some.
It's some very, very, very good value, especially because you take him.
He wins. There's no way he's not paying off that $7,300.
He gets the finish and multiple takedowns until he gets the finish ball.
Exactly. Daniel Cormier takes on Volkan Oezdemir for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Cormier 9,200 on DK, most expensive guy on the board. Oezdemir, cheapest guy, obviously, seven grand, minus 320, plus 290. What you take here?
Yeah, I would just like to say really quick, okay? If you're looking at this fight for what it is, which is a guy with seemingly very, very heavy hands, taking on a guy that is a superior wrestler who has more experience, then why not use the same analogy you're using for the main event, right?
I am kind of.
Volkan, this guy makes improvements every time, just like Francis Ngannou. But he's taking on Daniel Cormier, who's similar to Stipe Miocic.
I still don't think
to take this fight to the ground.
My problem is
You're probably all over Cormier. Are you not all over Cormier?
No, I'm not.
Wow, I'm all over Cormier. I can't see how Cormier blows this. Unless all the fact that
he's gotten older. He got knocked out real bad against John Jones in that last fight.
Why John Jones, Paul?
Volkan Oezdemir. Listen, man, 100% first thing off the board. I did actually have a bet earlier on with Cormier parlayed with the Moroz Moyle over.
That was Monday. That was Monday.
When that got canceled, I didn't want to lay the -3. It was -330 straight up on Cormier. I just cashed. It was on Bet365. I just cashed that out on that spot. But Volkan's been killing me. It's similar to like Nico Price, and there's been some other people along the way that I don't think you're actually all that good. And you burned me. And he's hurt me so many times that I don't think it's the worst DK punt here. 7 grand. If he wins, he's paying off that price tag as well. He's probably catching Cormier trying to come in.
You're just playing
Is he going to be able to sprawl?
This
Is he going to be able to sprawl and brawl? He could very well sprawl and brawl in this spot. Cormier is 38. We know that he struggles with his weight cut. We know that those knees are never getting any better. What if he can't? What if he gets an early takedown, but he kind of just smothers him? I don't know if Daniel Cormier on DK, maybe for cash purposes, seems relatively safe. But in GPPs, it's just like, I think other guys in this price range are going to outscore him. You look at any of Cormier's performances over the years, and it's the one that would really, really pay off his value is like the Gustafsson 5-round banger. Most of the time, even the Anthony Rumble Johnson 3rd round finish, he really only got, I think he got 96 points in that. That's probably not good enough in a GPP though.
Yeah, I don't know.
To really cash in, right? There's other guys on this card that will probably outscore in that price range.
Yeah,
anyway,
well,
that's my take here. I did have a bet on Cormier. I reeled it in once that over got cash because it just juice wasn't worth the squeeze as we like to say.
Yeah, for sure. I think most people are in agreement here that Volkan Oezdemir is not the second best guy in the division. He's there because they need somebody. John Jones is on suspension. Alexander Gustafsson, from what I'm hearing, has got very bad concussion problems going on right now. So he's just got to clear that. He's got to take some time off. They're trying to position Jimmy Manuwa there because, hey, Manuwa was talking a whole lot of smack to Cormier. It's a fun little fight. Manuwa hasn't got a shot yet. Maybe a stylistical clash. And then Volkan Oezdemir ruins those plans. Okay, well, if you ruin those plans, let's put him in there. But again, and I take it back to the Francis Ngannou thing, you look at the last couple of fights and he blasts guys in such spectacular fashion, it's easy to get behind him. But first and foremost, Jimmy Manuwa really wasn't a proven contender, and his chin's not all that great. And Misha Turkinov, come on, man. He blasts Misha Turkinov, a guy whose chin is also not very good.
Yeah,
and
very suspect.
He runs in. Those guys are basically running in because they're in Misha's case, you know, he's working on striking so much. I'm going to run in here. I'm going to get a hold of him. Gets clipped. In Manuwa's case, he thinks he's that much better of a striker. He closes that distance. He gets clipped. Again, Daniel Cormier probably will use his striking. He'll definitely use the striking long enough to get the takedown. But when Volkan's last two fights have gone 30 seconds, well, now you have to look at what happens beyond the 30 seconds.
I agree.
And Cormier, if Cormier gets knocked out, he's not going to get knocked out.
You go back to his Bellator days, and he got ragdolled by Kelly and Knudsen. But I don't know if we can.
Look at the OSP fight. Yeah, he's on short notice. Don't get me wrong. But all the same, he has a good first 2 rounds, and then he gets tired, and then OSP actually starts to win that fight, and it's too late. He ends up getting a split decision.
I'm just saying, in terms of the stylistic matchup, that Kelly and Knudsen fight, like he got ragdolled. And Daniel Cormier is Kelly and Knudsen on like super steroids, like.
Yeah, listen,
like
he's 38.
If that's still there, we haven't been able to see that there. That's why I've gotten burned. I watched that Bellator fight, and I'm just like, this guy's not any good.
Yeah.
And he's burned me twice. I'm not going against him this time. I have the smallest shred of Oezdemir just mixed into a couple lineups right now.
I'm not feeling
it. But I have faded DC at 9,200 completely.
Yeah, I don't mind it. And the only reason I say that is because even though I like DC, I think he gets the job done here. I can't quite figure out, is he going to route him for 5 rounds and just take him down and lie on top of him and just get me points based on those takedowns? Or can he put this guy away? I mean, he's looking for legacy here. Had he beat John Jones, bear with me on this, had he beat John Jones, this fight would not be happening. Because now you got a guy that would have avenged his only career loss. He's won a title for the Strikeforce, basically the tournament, heavyweight tournament title. Then he goes to the UFC, wins the light heavyweight championship. He's a former Olympian. He's pretty much done everything there is to do. He's got a job at Fox. He sits on a desk. He makes lots of money. He's getting older, like we talked about. If he goes out there and he beats John Jones, what a better way. You don't beat John Jones and then for your next fight take on Volkan Oezdemir.
Well, you don't beat John Jones in general. That's just not something that actually happens.
But he wins the first 2 rounds against John Jones. But the problem is that John doesn't tire because Cormier puts on a hectic pace for the first 2 rounds. And as a result, 10 minutes into the fight, 2 rounds down, he starts to get a little bit tired. John Jones is on steroids. He never gets tired, especially when you look at what steroid he was on. I mean, the Germans use it for the Olympics. Why? Because it definitely helps out in the cardio department. So even though it's a cheap anabolic steroid that you can use orally, all the same, he's on steroids. John Jones in that 3rd round is a fresh man against Daniel Cormier, who's pushed a pace for the first 2 rounds. So yeah, he kicks him in the head and he knocks him out. Cormier is the kind of guy that he's so proud. He doesn't want to end his career on a knockout loss. He wants to get back, even though it's a no contest now, he wants to get back in there. He wants to right the ship and go off on a winning note. This is him going off on a winning note. I know he's going to get the takedowns against Volkan. I truly believe he's going to get the takedowns. But is it going to be an Anthony Johnson situation where Volkan doesn't know what to do off his back and then ends up getting choked out? Or is Daniel just going to rout him for the 5 rounds? If he's going to finish him, and I believe that Daniel truly wants to go out there and put the exclamation mark here on an opponent that he doesn't believe is at his level, and most fans and pundits alike don't think he's at his level, then you want to finish this guy. And if he's going to finish him, he's going to get me the takedowns, he's more than likely going to get a submission, or he's just going to pound him out on the ground. I know he's not traditionally a finisher, but at 205 and he gets a guy that's basically a one-dimensional striker who's very tall, he'll be easy to take down, he'll be easy to muscle up against the cage. Come on, you go from fighting John Jones, who you were doing
9,200 though, that's the problem. Fair. And if he takes him down, say if it's a similar fight to the Anthony Johnson, he takes him down early, can Volkan get back up? Because if I'm paying that price, I want an opponent that's going to get back up. We got to get a bunch of takedowns. We don't want one takedown, and then Cormier doesn't really pass all that much either. He'll just he'll stand in half guard and just throw elbows and punches.
Yeah, but eventually you give up your back because you're like, oh, I can't get this guy off of me. I've tried.
He'd have to get the early finish. Daniel Cormier is not historically a good DK scorer.
I will say something here. I'm going to play him personally. However, and you said this about the first fight, but I will agree with this about the second fight. I like Cormier for 9,200, but you could go and take Makhachev, or you could take Barzola, who are cheaper plays, who have the same ceiling.
Exactly.
Maybe a higher ceiling, and they're cheaper plays. I'll give you that.
Shane Burgos takes on Calvin Kattar. Shane Burgos, 8,400 on DK. Kattar, 7,700. Burgos is minus 190 favorite, with Kattar to be had for plus 165. What's your take here?
Well, initially all about Burgos, and I still am Burgos, don't get me wrong. It's just, I love the way this guy fights. I mean, Tiger Schulman guy, and when Tiger Schulman fighters get in the ring, whether it's a Junior Rivera, whether it's a Uriah Hall, if you keep the fight standing with these guys, they're always going to have a great chance. What I like about Burgos is that he's relentless. He's always moving forward. He's always just slinging them. He's got a fantastic chin, and when you're young, and you're a great athlete, and you're a great striker, and you've got that self-confidence in you, you'll take a shot to give a shot. And in his case, he'll take a shot, he does, but he comes back with 2 or 3 big ones. The fight against Thiago Trator, his debut, not the prettiest debut, but he goes out there, he gets the win. The fight with Charles Rosa is the one where you being reckless and you being confident sometimes gets you down on rounds. He's probably down 2 rounds going into the third.
I think, on 2 of the judges' scorecards.
And he gets the finish in the third round. And by the way, knocking out Charles Rosa, no easy task. But that's what Burgos can go do. And in subsequent fights, I like what I see out of Burgos. He can go out there, he can dominate, he can get those points. When I think about this fight, I think to myself, though, Calvin Kattar is a pretty slick striker. He's the kind of guy that's got a wealth of experience, comes from a striking base. And if you go in there reckless against the guy, he can backpedal, he can use his range, and he can touch you up a little bit to the tune of going up a couple rounds. If he goes up a couple rounds and Burgos can't finish in that third round, then he could squeak out a decision. I like Burgos. I like the value on Burgos. I think Burgos marches this guy around. Kattar's on his back foot. Kattar, I'm not going to say it was a lucky performance against Fili. He dominated Andre Fili. But that's a different type of stylistical matchup. Fili's also taken that fight in short notice because you spend a whole camp getting ready for a certain guy and you get unknown Calvin Kattar here who's got a different style altogether. So,
and I like Burgos overall as a striker too.
Yeah, and Burgos, by the way, like
he's a pressure volume striker.
Takedown defense checks out. Takedown offense leaves a little bit to the imagination, but he's so strong and so willing to just drive forward. He'll get the takedowns. And just
every single fight that Burgos has had in the UFC is $84 price tag. I think his lowest was like 94 points or something like that. It's like at 8,400, I'll take that all day.
He hasn't landed less than, I think, 72 significant strikes or something in any of his 3 UFC performances. Yeah. So yeah, we know what we're getting out of him. And like I said, I like this guy. With Kattar, is there a chance that Burgos is the kind of guy, if you put him on all your parlays, Kattar's got a shot here that he can come in here and he'd shit on your parlay. But I like Burgos. The price is right on him. I'm a little tad bit nervous because, you know, it's striker versus striker. This guy's a little rangier and he's going to kind of use that back game, use your aggressiveness against you. But I can't see myself going against him. And as far as DK goes, I think we're speaking the same language. He traditionally scores very well, and this is a case that he's not taking a guy that's looking to hold him up against the cage. He's not taking on a guy that's looking to take him down and ground him the entire time. He's got a guy that's more than likely going to strike with him. And if he's landing anything like he lands in his other fights, where he generally fights strikers, he should do the same thing here. So I like Shane Burgos.
Sounds like we're on the same page. I have Burgos basically as part of my core. He's one of the guys that 8,400. It's easy to fit him in. He's in that mid-range, and
money's coming in on him. It was a good price when he opened.
Yeah, earlier in the week.
Hells yeah.
Early in the week, he was like minus 140, minus 150.
I got him for minus 160, but now he's minus 190.
Minus 190. It's just like
stay
away. Don't start parlaying that up because it is actually a more competitive fight than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. We got Jean Villante taking on Francimar Barroso. Jean Villante, 8,800 on DK. Barroso, 7,400. Minus 170. Villante, plus 150. Barroso. I don't want to touch this fight with a 10-foot pole. We got Villante, he's lived off this laurel of him being Chris Weidman's buddy and all of that. But like
it used to be, but since Weidman's kind of been all over the place, he's one of those Serra-Longo guys.
Yeah, fair enough. But you know, the Safarzbek-Safarov fight was a real, like Safarov, he was super, super tough.
He came into that fight with 1 ACL, and he still almost beat Jean Villante.
Exactly. Like, he's not anything special, and we really saw, like, the cap of Jean Villante in that spot.
Yeah.
That when I watched that, I think I had some money on Villante, and I was just like, I vowed, I'm never putting money on this guy ever again, unless he's just like a massive underdog or something. And he's a -170 favorite against a guy who is a really tough guy to get a read on in Francimar Barroso, who you never really know what you're going to get from him. He'll either get headbutted.
You usually know what you're going to get.
Well, it's going to be boring. It's going to be slow-paced if he has it his way. I don't know if he'll be able to get the takedown. His striking isn't very good. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Jean Villante.
Villante's a little chinny, and Barroso's not a power puncher. He's got a nice little left body kick, not a power puncher. But with Villante, probably only takes one shot to wall with this guy.
Fair, but I don't know if Barroso's the guy to do it. Yeah. I have steered clear of this from betting perspective. I've steered clear from it from DK perspective. This is a full-out fade on my part. I actually didn't even want to make this graphical board that we had for it, but I had made one for basically every other fight, so I was just like, I might as well. But yeah, that's my take here. Like, this is a pure pass.
Yeah, I got to go to Villante. I think he gets it done by decision. Listen, these guys are both super untrustworthy. So am I saying I'm all in on Villante? No. How could you be all in on Jean Villante? But traditionally speaking, if you look at that Safarov fight, yeah, it's all over the place. He has a terrible game plan of, I'm just going to go sling with this guy. His striking's not all that bad. It's his next two fights. Knocked out by Shogun, terrible. And the fight with Pat Cummins, who, I don't know why it was a split. Cummins definitely won 2 of those rounds. Argument that Cummins may have won all 3 of those rounds, but all the same, it should have been a split. So now you got a guy he's won one of his last 5 fights. It's not looking good. But in the Pat Cummins fight, Cummins goes, I think, 1 for 11 on takedowns against Jean Villante. If you look at Jean Villante against Ilir Latifi, another fight that he lost, Latifi gets, I think, 3 takedowns, but it's like 3 for 12 on takedowns. So if anything, being with Chris Weidman, being with all those guys, Jean Villante is a work in progress. He was a good athlete, played football at Hofstra, and he's never really found his rhythm. He's a world beater, no stretch of the imagination he's a world beater, but he's a decent athlete. His striking has gotten a little bit better. You do see him throw some hands sometimes. They're nice, sharp combinations. The Corey Anderson fight, stay around long enough that in the 3rd round you can land those shots. The Anthony Parash fight, yeah, I get it, Anthony Parash, 4-year-old Australian. You can land those shots. But it's the fact that the takedown defense checks out with him and his striking's not bad. Barroso needs the takedown, dude. He needs the takedown.
I could see this just turning into a lot of just gross, cage work. I want no part of that.
Gross cage work. But what I feel is if you look at Barroso's last number of performances, the Darren Stewart fights are terrible, but the Rakic fight in particular, Rakic is, a fairly one-dimensional kickboxer, and he does complete 2 takedowns against this tall, lanky kickboxer, but he can't do nothing with them because you've seen the guy fight. He never does anything with a takedown. He could get a takedown.
No, but his path to victory is get that takedown and then just hold position until the end of the round. Hopefully the ref doesn't stand him back up.
But he averages 20 significant strikes landed in a fight. And that's because when he's standing, he doesn't do anything. And when he gets the fight to the ground, he don't do anything. And at least with Villante, he's good enough to keep the fight standing and just outwork him a little bit. If Barroso had some crazy power, I think he could make this a dirty fight. Then you always got to worry with Villante, because when you drag him into a war, you'll probably beat him. But Barroso doesn't want to get in a war. He's 37 years old. He knows how he wants to fight. He's not going to change it. I initially thought him being at Power MMA might help him out a little bit, but he's not. He's also surrounded by fairly one-dimensional wrestlers, and he fights the exact same way. So I cannot condone putting any money on Barroso. It is an MMA fight. I suppose anything can happen. And I don't love Jean Villante, but I don't mind Jean Villante. And for decision, because this is going to be a terrible fight.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
A lot of nasty cage work with Villante landing a few strikes. I just find it. Even if Barroso wins, I don't even know if he pays off 74. It'd be a lot of cage work. He'd get a dirty takedown, and then he would lie on top of him. He'd get 55, 60 points in a win. It's just you don't want to know any. This is an easy fade on DK. I'm not betting it either.
Yeah,
coming up next, this is one of my favorite fights on the card. We got Thomas Almeida taking on Rob Font. Almeida 8,200 on DK. Font 8,000. Betting line has been surprising me, to be perfectly honest. Minus 115 Almeida, minus 105 Font. What's your take here?
Well, it's surprising that I think if there was no line and you just ask somebody on the street or somebody that follows the sport, who do you think? Most people seem to be going towards Thomas Almeida. The guy's a human highlight reel. He's only 26 years old. Conceivably, we haven't even seen the best out of Thomas Almeida. But it's important worth noting that he is a kind of a wild striker, and when he takes on guys that are technical, they're going to make him pay. Rob Font's a very technical guy. I just keep going back personally to the Lineker versus Rob Font fight, whereas if you march this guy down and he's got to strike off his back foot, he ain't the same as when he's moving forward throwing the strikes, right? So even though Lineker is small, compact, basically fights like a male version of
you have
Jessica
the exact
Andrade,
same thought on this.
Thomas Almeida should back this guy up. He should land his shots. He should get him thinking.
Almeida's going to have both hands up.
He's very hittable. He's very hittable, and Rob Font's
That is my concern. I have a 2-unit bet on Thomas Almeida here. I have Almeida all over DK, and it's all about that template that John Lineker set. Now Lineker is the GOAT at doing that style.
Oh, yeah.
Back you up, throw hooks, and then
Jessica Andrade, John Lineker. Back
basically
up,
the exact same
little
thing.
tiny hooks from the wayside, and they
The real giveaway, though, was in Font's next loss when he took on Pedro Munoz, who is not.
He was looking good standing, though.
But Munoz started doing the exact same thing. Just started pushing forward, eating shots, keeping him centered, keeping him on his back foot, and then Font panicked and went for a takedown, got subbed.
Yeah, panic wrestling. It'll get you in trouble against BJJ Black.
That's his Achilles heel. I think Almeida, if he watches any tape, if I'm seeing it, he should be able to see it. Until further notice, anytime Font takes on a pressure striker, someone who's going to march forward and make him fight off of his back foot, I will fade him every single time. That's about as easy as it sounds. I'm just surprised by the line.
I'm not.
Like the way I think about this fight, unless Font maybe clips him, maybe if Font is able to secure a takedown, I do favor him on the ground.
Yeah.
But if they're standing and the way I see it, if Almeida's moving forward, pressuring him, like. I'm surprised that this wasn't like minus 170, minus 180.
I would be surprised, and this is why. Because as good as we think Thomas Almeida is, he's just so hittable, man. And you go back to the Brad Pickett fight.
Yeah, he did get hit.
He's getting landed on. And Brad Pickett ain't the same striker that Rob Font is. You look at the fight with Jimmy Rivera, it's striker versus striker.
Rivera is
a much better.
stud.
I completely agree. But sometimes when he gets in a striking match with a superior striker, maybe not even superior, just a little more technical, a little more sharp, he gets in trouble. And off his back, I'm not sold on him whatsoever off his back.
No, I'm not either.
So
I'll be.
Font can piece this guy up and get takedowns. And if it is a close fight, Paul, you smell that? Font's from Massachusetts, baby. It could be a close decision.
Some clam chowder.
Could be a close decision.
Say it right, Frenchie.
You got Mark Delagrati, sorry, in his corner. Good old Boston boy. All right, yeah, let's just give it to Rob Font.
It's going to be a bad night for Boston the way I've been looking at this card. We got Kattar losing. We got Font losing. Next fight coming up.
I do think that was a close fight. I got Almeida. But
I got Almeida all over on DK.
That could be an Achilles
I like it. I like it. Let's go. We got Brandon Davis taking on Kyle Bochniak. Both of them 8,100. Davis is a minus 125 favorite. Bochniak plus 105. Who do you like?
Totally flip-flop on this one. When it opened up, it was like, Bochniak's going to get in the win column here. But conceivably, he's 0-3 in the UFC because there's no way he beat Barzola. So lucky he had Canadian judges on that one because, especially at Vancouver way, it was a terrible decision. But he's not like, okay, look at him as a striker. That's mostly what he wants to do. He's a strong, physical guy, 30 years old, wants to go out there, wants to dictate the action a little bit. But he's got a short little reach. He's only 5'7". He doesn't typically land a whole lot. He swings a whole lot.
Scores 37 points on average. He's had 3 fights.
Not a whole lot.
And he should be 0-3.
Yeah.
Because that Barzola fight.
That's what I'm saying.
I had bet Barzola. I had bet Bochniak
so
there.
Did I?
And that was. I was watching going like, well, there goes my money on that bet. Because that was looking back on it now. What a bad bet that was by me. But it is what it is. But at the end of the day, he's not really a DK guy you want to target here.
And you look at his 3-fight run in the UFC so far, right? I mean, he makes his debut against Charles Rosa, and he has a good first round, but he's on short notice.
He made it competitive.
It was competitive early, but if you watch that fight, once Charles Rosa kind of figures out the distance and what this guy wants to do, then he starts to take it into his domain, so to speak, starts to beat him up. But Charles Rosa is a guy that's versatile. He can strike and he can take it to the ground. The next fight against Barzola's a wrestler. Barzola doesn't even opt to wrestle with him. He's like, I want to try out some striking. Marches him down and beats him up. And then the fight with Jeremy Kennedy, he gives up 8 takedowns against a guy in Jeremy Kennedy that didn't really want to strike with this guy. He's a little wild. He's a brawler. I'll just take him down.
I don't know if he's going to have to deal with a bunch of these things with
with Brandon
opponent,
Davis. So
though.
that's why initially I thought, you know what, Bochniak's finally getting a guy in Brandon Davis who's going to want to stand in front of him, who's going to want to throw some bombs. Brandon Davis comes out of that Alan Belcher camp. So if you look at some of the guys that are prototypical Alan Belcher camp fighters, whether it be a Chase Sherman, whether it be a Jason Knight, they kind of fight not the same, but same in the sense that they're cocky. They like to talk a little bit in the ring. They like to move around. They like to throw some shots, and they like to get into brawls, so to speak. Him and Jason Knight, I mean, they're both 145 pounders. They're training partners. They fight kind of similar. When you see Brandon Davis on his Dana White Contender Series fight against Austin Arnett, I believe, he talks a whole lot of shit in that cage, man. He's just talking shit. But the guy's also former. Explain to me this.
Watching the tape there, I wasn't too impressed though.
I wasn't overly
He may
impressed.
have enough to get by Bochniak, who should be 0-3, could be 0-4. But we go to decision here.
That's a good point, actually.
What's that
is a good
smell?
point, actually.
This could be the Boston guy, at least to the way I'm looking at it. This Bochniak could be the Boston guy that gets that controversial split decision.
Well, he's got a controversial split decision in the past. And like I said, like I go back to, I had initially thought Bochniak, but then the more I watch a little bit of tape, the more I look at Brandon Davis, the guy is actually a pretty good athlete. He played football for Mississippi State University, which makes no sense to me because he's 5'10", 145 pounds. Like,
He could be a corner.
was he the place kicker? Like, I don't know. But all the same, he's a good athlete. Comes out of there, he's a competitor. He gets with Alan Belcher, and now the guy fancies himself a striker. The big difference here is that they're both strikers, and that Bochniak will have a little more experience. This kid doesn't have a very good record, so to speak, but he's going to have 3 inches in the height department. He's going to have 2 inches on the reach department, and I honestly think that's the trick.
He is tall and long.
So Bochniak, because he's got short arms and he's only 5'7", he'll come forward and he'll swing, and he doesn't really step in. He's a decent striker. Trains with Peter Walsh out of Boston.
Yeah.
But all the same is that a long rangier guy that's going to move and just stick a shot in his face
jab.
and move, that's the way to just outpoint this guy. And even though this is probably a pass, it's probably a stay away, I wanted a dog, and that's why I was buying into Bochniak. He's a dog money.
But now Dave, okay.
I'm not going to take a dog just to take a dog. This is probably a pass, and I do think that this kid's got a shot against him.
Yeah, tough fight to call all around. The next one up, we got Abdul Razak Alhassan taking on Sabah Homasi in a rematch. These guys fought just over a month ago against each other, and it was a banger.
Great fight. I want to see it again. So
4 minutes and 20-something seconds of
carnage,
of complete mayhem and carnage. Alhassan is $9,000 on DK. Homasi 7,200, -210 on the betting line for Alhassan. Plus 175. Now, if you didn't catch the first fight between the two of them, both of these guys are like knocking each other down, wobbling each other, and at one point, Alhassan lands a big one. And the way that Homasi fell, I can understand. I give the referee a little bit of, give him a bit of a break, because like the way that he fell forward. And that's always like a dead giveaway for a ref.
But he fell, not like
and then
he
as
got
soon
hit
as
and
he
fell,
yeah.
he just kind of like went under. I know, I hear what you're saying.
But like basically,
book the fight again.
They booked the fight again because it's like as soon as Homasi got up, he was like, "I'm fine," and he actually legitimate. Fighters do that all the time, but like this time he actually seemed legitimately fine. Give me Alhassan again.
Yeah.
I don't think like maybe Homasi comes into this goes, "Let's slow our roll," because that type of war is not going to work very well. Like both of these guys got concussed in that last fight. Like don't tell me anything otherwise. They both got hammered. I'm not betting Alhassan just because of how close that first fight seemed, but like the value went down quite a bit. I think he was like a -300 or so favorite the last time they fought. Now because of what we have seen, it's a little bit closer, -210 plus 175, but if this fight is anything like the other one, like you need this, especially in GPPs. You need somebody from this fight. I'm just going to load up on Alhassan and hope for the best. But if Homasi wins, like, I'll only have myself to blame.
Yeah, I don't love the DK pricing because, as you said, we've already seen the first fight, and it was pretty competitive.
He scored like 118 points, though.
He scored 118 points. If he goes out there and gets the first-round finish again in a trepid-paced fight, yeah, absolutely gets the points. But the 7,200 on Sabah Homasi, I mean, we know Sabah Homasi can hurt this guy. We know Sabah Homasi could potentially finish this guy.
And if he had knocked him down, I think he got like 22 points.
Imagine he would have knocked him out right there.
If he had knocked him out right there, he would have got
crazy.
90 plus. Yeah, he would have scored around the same.
Yeah.
It's basically like both of those guys were neck and neck heading to that moment, and then the 90-point bonus, basically.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is, and honestly, I'll be honest here, I'm not going to take the punt play. But if you're sitting at home and you're thinking you need somebody in that cheap range, you're playing a GPP, it's a big tournament, then Sabah Homasi's A, very good value.
And he'll
B,
probably be low owned because he's got Stipe $100 more than him.
Yeah, and you know in the case of Sabah Homasi, because you've seen the first fight, he can land and he can hurt this guy. We know that. Also, if you look at Alhassan's fight prior to that against Mayo Experience, he gets tired. Once he gets tired, you control him a little bit. The thing is, they're both front runners. And give me Alhassan because I think he's a little better in the front running department. I talked about this the last time that we broke down this fight, that the guy appears just to be a crazy striker. He trains at Duke Group as his camp. He just wants to go out there and take you out as fast as possible. That's how most of his fights tend to play out. That's how he got his initially undefeated record prior to losing to Mario Akhmedov, obviously. But the guy's a bona fide judo black belt, and he does have that in his back pocket. The thing with Homasi is one guy's background is a judo black belt, the other guy's background is a male stripper. Which one are you really going to take here? No, all jokes aside, the guy's 11-7. We know what we're getting out of Sabah Homasi. We've seen him on Tough. We've seen him on Titan. We've seen him getting smashed up on the regional. We've seen him against guys like Reggie Pena. We know what we're getting out of him. By the way, he's like nearing his mid-30s, so I don't think you're going to see a better version of him. But he goes in there with the mindset of, I want to have a good fight. I want to excite the fans. I want to try to get that 50 Gs. You know what I mean?
Just want to bang, bro.
Yeah, and in the last fight, he goes out. He lands on Alhassan. He hurts Alhassan. He tries his damnedest to finish him, but Alhassan recovers. Now it's like, ooh, now it's my time. Then it's my turn. And when he starts to put up the pressure on Homasi, it's not that he fell apart. It's nothing like that. But there's no doubt he was getting hurt. If Herb doesn't, was it Herb Dean for that too?
I forget.
If Herb doesn't step in and this guy falls almost face first into the ground, and you just take a step back, and Alhassan starts bombing on him, is he gonna get back up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I gave the ref like the way that he went down, like falling down, face planting basically. Like, there's not many refs that are not going to stop that.
Yeah, and my dad does the same thing. We watch fights together. He's always like, meh. Unless the guy's literally KO'd unconscious, he's always like, could have let him go a little bit more. And I always say, I said, Dad, if they would have let it go, do you really think fighter A was going to step off of him? No, he was going to continue raining down damage for another 5 or 10 seconds, and then you stop, and then you say, oh, that was a late stoppage. You know, there's no good way. I'll admit, this was an early stoppage. But all the same, if you would have let the fight continue to go, Alhassan was recovered, he had momentum on his side, he took Homasi's best shot.
He could have finished him in the next 40 seconds then.
Yeah, he very well could have. So looking at this fight again, I'm getting better value on it. And also, if you're Alhassan, you're like, damn, I didn't think he was going to do that. Now you're like, I know what he's
exactly,
gonna do.
yeah.
Whereas if you're Homasi,
we're
like,
going to war.
I knew he was going to do that, and he did do that, and he's going to do that again.
Yep.
What am I really going to improve on? It wasn't like this is 8 months later. Like, it's fairly fresh. He was probably concussed as well. So
Homasi
I got to go with
overachieved that night, and he still came away
But
with the L.
9,000's expensive, by the way. Barzola's cheaper, and I think, first round knockout.
We'll get to that in a bit. You just want to keep talking about Barzola. We're going down the card here. Next on the card, we got Alexandria Pantoja taking on Dustin Ortiz. 8,500 for Pantoja, 7,700 for Ortiz, minus 140 on the betting line for Pantoja, plus 120 Ortiz. This line was actually a lot wider earlier in the week, and it's come back down to normalcy. I think it was, I saw like a plus 160 next to Dustin Ortiz's name. I should have jumped on it at the time. This guy's a prospect killer. I think he's going to have the striking advantage against Pantoja.
Yeah.
And I know Pantoja is like a legit black belt. They get onto the ground.
They're all legit black belts nowadays.
Dustin Ortiz is so scrambly and
Has he
difficult.
never
I know
fought-
Moreno caught him in the guillotine. That's Moreno's move. It could happen. That's something to worry about. But 7,700, we've been talking about a bunch of these expensive guys around there that we really want to have on our team. You got to find somewhere to save. And I think Dustin Ortiz, if nothing else, will probably get you a nice little 3 rounds out of this. So Dustin Ortiz, kill another prospect. That's what he gets sent in to do. Well, he gets sent in that they hope that he... I don't know why they keep booking all these prospects against them, because he put, he killed the hype on Scoggins. He killed the hype on... Who else? There's so many other... Sandoval had a little bit of hype going into his last fight. knocked him out in 15 seconds. Like,
that's what he does, dude.
Dustin Ortiz
He's
is a
underrated.
legit dude that loses to top guys in the division. If Pantoja gets by him, good on him. But 7,700 on DK, Dustin Ortiz, sign me up.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there too. I mean, talking about got to get some more dogs on here. Dustin Ortiz for dog money, I like it. We know Dustin Ortiz as the scramble master. If you want to scramble with this guy, he almost always out-scrambles you. And the one thing he's kind of got himself into a little bit of trouble is oftentimes when he's scrambling, he'll give up his back for a split second. In the elite black belts of the world, you know, the Formigas of the world, they're going to take his back. If they take his back, he's going to be in trouble. But against Pantoja, I don't think he really has the wrestling to get it down there. And he's not the same type of black belt as a guy like Formiga, who's way more opportunistic. Now, Pantoja, you look back
or
on
Wilson Hayes either.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are just, they've been around for so long. Pantoja's fairly young. When he went on to The Ultimate Fighter, he was the #1 seeded guy. He took on Brandon Moreno as well. Brandon Moreno is the #16 seeded guy. Young kid, unheralded. Moreno is putting it on him in the striking department. Eventually, Pantoja gets to the ground. He submits him. Not a great fight. The next fight he takes on Augie Kubo. He loses. He lost the majority of the
wrestled and controlled.
Wrestled and controlled. Now, Augie Kubo didn't even get a UFC. He beat Pantoja. Didn't even get a UFC contract. He's actually won 2 straight back in Japan now. No idea how.
Well, his style, I think they're just like,
oh, he's a good Japanese fighter. Bring him in.
They'll bring him in. They'll bring him in when they go to Japan the next time.
Yeah,
I think.
okay, fair enough. So then he takes on the Eric Sheldon fight, which is his UFC debut, and I didn't really think it was a great fight, to be honest with you. Eric Sheldon is a guy that is also young, and he's got some low ring IQ. Like, he makes some really bad decisions at some really bad timing in the fight, and it was a pretty close fight with Pantoja. So now you got Pantoja, he's taking on, he went from taking on these young guys on tough. Brandon Moreno's just a baby, you know. Augie Kubo's 30 years old, but he was fairly unheralded at the time. Eric Sheldon, when he's 26 years old, doesn't have a whole lot of pro MMA experience on his record. Now you're taking on Dustin Ortiz. I mean, this guy is experienced. He's extremely experienced. People always talk about and associate him with Duke Rufus, but since he went back to Nashville, which I think where he spends most of his time now is back at home in Nashville at Knoxville MMA, whatever the name is. Nashville MMA maybe? All the same. He's made a lot of improvements. He's in a home environment. He's getting, you know, attention one-on-one. And he probably still goes, sees some of his old training partners, works with these guys. I like Dustin Ortiz, but I think the path to victory is, and you nailed it, he's a much better striker. People often sleep on Ortiz's striking because in his fights, he's mostly trying to take you down. He's mostly trying to create a scramble and hopefully win said scramble. But his striking is very underrated. And I think with Pantoja, Pantoja's got okay striking, but it's wild and floopy, and it's not the kind of same pace that Ortiz is going to put on. Ortiz goes in there, he outstrikes him, Pantoja tries to take it to the ground, this guy can wrestle, and if he does get taken down, scramble. Get back up, make it happen. I like Ortiz, dog money, great. On DK, I didn't really work him into a whole lot of lineups, but I don't mind him.
We got Julio Arce taking on Dan Ige. I don't know if I pronounced that one right.
I call it Ig, but he's Hawaiian. I don't know, he's Hawaiian, so they might pronounce
Ige. IGE.
IGE.
Dan IGE. Arce is 8,600 on DK. IGE is 7,600, minus 150 for Arce, plus 130 for Dan. What's your take here?
I've been watching Julio Arce for a long time, actually. He was a very good kickboxer in the amateur scene prior to getting into MMA. When he was about 7-0, he fought a good friend of mine named Michael Imperato. And the fight went 3 rounds, and Arce, he paced him up. He's a good southpaw, fights out of that southpaw stance. He's also, I think, the 2011 Golden Glove champion out of New Jersey. So we know what the guy likes to do. He likes to strike. Against Imperato, Imperato's not a striker in the slightest bit. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he was very unable to get Arce to the ground. But Arce lit this guy up, like to the tune that Imperato had to go to a New Jersey hospital after the fight, and they didn't release him for like 3 days, man. He was beat up. But in beating up a guy who's tired and very hurt and has his hands down, it doesn't really know how to strike, Arce couldn't take him down. I think he's got like 3 knockouts on his record, and he did beat Peter Pettis by TKO.
But he lost that first round. Pettis actually didn't look too bad. He was long, lean. It's just he kind of got tired in round 2. But like he looked good in round 1, and he was causing all sorts of problems for Arce.
I didn't think Arce had a whole lot of power, right? And then in the Pettis fight, he gets the finish, but rewatch that second round. He hits Pettis with like 15 clean shots to the chin, and Pettis takes them and takes them and takes them, and it does wear him down. So I think Arce is a fantastic striker, but he's another Tiger Schulman guy. I don't know how he's going to really deal in the grappling department, because when he beat Imperato, I honestly thought in my heart of hearts, if Imperato wins this fight, even though he had been cut from the UFC for those racist comments. Someone should give this guy a contract. I mean, he's done a lot. He's a very good fighter. Someone should give him a contract. When Arce beat him, Arce moved to 8-0. Surely, Arce should go to the UFC, surely. But he took on Brian Kelleher. Now, Kelleher was very unheralded at the time. He has an okay record.
He's got a bad record. He's a much better fighter than what his record suggests.
100%. You look at like the 8 or 9 losses on his record, it's like, oh, really? But he's a very, very tough dude. Now, he's a good grappler as well. And the first fight's a majority decision, which I thought for sure he's won this decision. Majority decision. You're fighting Arce in his backyard, in New Jersey, Ring of Combat, where he's the champion. To the tune that after the fight, let's book an immediate rematch. You want some of this again? You'll get some of this again.
And he lost again to Kelleher again.
Way more definitively.
He got finished or submission end of round 3.
Submission, right? So I thought it was a guillotine. It might have been a rear naked. All the same, Kelleher catches him the second time, and it's way more definitive. So now, to me, the blueprint's there. Michael Imperato couldn't get him on the ground. I get it. But if you get this guy on the ground, you can make this guy pay. He's a good striker. Like I said, southpaw. He is tricky. He's got some great moves. But even in his fight with Pettis is kind of a striker as well. Pettis weighed in for that fight at 142 pounds and is listed at fighting at bantamweight in his fight prior. So even though he was, like you're saying,
really long bantamweight.
Yeah, like you're saying, that he was tall. He was, very lean. He weighed in 3 pounds under the weight. Technically 4 pounds with the pound allowance. And he's taking on a guy in Arce that was able to just lose the first round and then rally in the second. And also, Pettis is what, 5-2? He was not very experienced. I look at this fight against Dan Ige. And Ige, first of all, he's from Hawaii, but he moved to Iowa when he was a kid. He wrestled in elementary at Iowa. He wrestled at a community college in Iowa. I get it's not Iowa State. I get he's not an All-American out of Iowa, but all the same. Community college at Iowa. Your supply teacher is probably a Midwest All-American. You know what I mean? Like, everybody in Iowa is a good wrestler. Now, he says that they call him Dynamite Dan because he wasn't the greatest wrestler, but he always goes for it. And when he transitioned to jiu-jitsu and then furthermore MMA, the guy goes for it. You look at his Dana White Contender Series fight where he takes on a very tough Cuban, undefeated at the time, judo black belt, and has since won in the main event of Titan with a sick knockout, with takedown knockout. He gives him no room. He's on his ass the entire time. He bombs him with strikes, and whenever you try to shoot a takedown on him, his takedown defense is great.
His wrestling isn't the greatest, though. Like it's more like scrambly, try to like push you up against the cage, make like an awkward moment, and then like slip around. Like he doesn't have your typical like double blast double or even like single leg.
Yeah, and what
it's more of like a chain wrestling type of game.
Yeah, the reason why I personally think that is though even though he comes from that wrestling base as a kid and that's what transitioned him to MMA, he's actually a judo brown belt as well. He's a BJJ brown belt and a judo brown belt. I get he's not a black belt, but this is not the kind of guy you probably need that black belt for. Because he's a judo guy, now he doesn't mind being upright. He doesn't mind pinning you up against the cage and try to get those foot sweeps. He doesn't mind trying to toss you over his hip.
It's MMA.
It's MMA, right? And he's using all these different things. So when I look at him, I think he's got some decent size for the division. He's going to be very relentless. Pushing Arce back, as we saw with Pettis. Pettis, when he's aggressive, that's when he's landing. Arce's a great striker, but he gets landed on a bunch in that fight. If Ige can move forward and he can be the one landing those shots, he can get some takedowns. The takedown and the jiu-jitsu is the way to beating this guy. So do that. He's another dog. He's a slight dog. This is a very close fight. I'm by no means saying that he's going to blow him out. I know it's going to be a close competitive fight. But I think it's a close competitive fight that this kid can get the win.
That he can get the dub. And if he wins, he's probably getting some takedowns, some transitions, that type of thing. Which scores big in DK. And we were talking about, at the beginning of the card, it's like, if you're taking Stipe or if you're taking Volkan, like, you're taking a lot of risk onto your lineup. These are kind of like 76 and 77 for Dustin Ortiz and Dan Ige. Are guys that you can fit into cash, and it's a little bit safer.
Cash for sure.
And you can probably play them in GPPs as well. They probably don't have the same boom or bust mentality, but like if they win, they're gonna probably get their 80 points or 75, 80
They'll
points.
be a lot less owned, right? Because everybody else is gonna be targeting those Stipe.
It'll be a stars and scrubs type of mentality.
No one's gonna go for Ige, and then he could get the submission because we know he's got good jiu-jitsu, and we know that the trick to beating Arce is beating him. But I think you nailed it when you said cash game play, because like I just said, Arce's not a big power puncher. If he's going to beat Ige, he's going to beat him over the course of 3 rounds, pacing him up. But he probably will give up a couple takedowns, and he will get landed a little bit. So I don't mind it for a cash game play.
All right, we got Enrique Barzola taking on Matt Bessette. Barzola 8,700 on DK, Bessette 7,500. Minus 235 Barzola, plus 195 Bessette.
Barzola all day.
Anybody who's been listening to this knows that you and Enrique Barzola are basically married at this point, so why don't you take it away?
No, yeah, I just think that, first of all, styles make fights. Got to get that out of the way. We're pretty late to the show already. I haven't been able to drop the line, but yeah, I mean, this is tailor-made for him. First and foremost, he was supposed to take on a much tougher opponent. He gets Bessette as it is short notice, but it's not like a last-minute guy. He's had a couple weeks, but by the way, a couple weeks is just not enough. But Matt Bessette's a guy that's been around for a very long time. He fought another friend of mine, Lenny Wheeler, who's from the east coast of Canada, trains in Halifax, actually. Shout out to Pat Mayo, a Nova Scotia native in his own right. But he takes on Lenny Wheeler and blasted. I mean, blasted, KO'd in like 30 seconds. It was like, whoa, didn't see that one coming, but great. He goes on like an 11-fight winning streak after that. But one notable name out of the entire guys, and that's Kevin Croom, former MFC fighter. You're probably sitting at home thinking to yourself, Cody, Kevin Croom is not a notable name. What are you talking about? But I'm just telling you, the level of opposition that he was facing and beating was on the lower level. Now he gets his Dana White Contender Series fight against Kurt Holoba. Kurt Holoba is a massive 155-pounder, can fight at 170 pounds, doesn't matter. Goes out there, good wrestler, greedy guy, decent ground and pound. He takes him down like nothing. He pounds him pretty effortlessly and knocks him out like a minute and a half into the first round. That's the key to being Bessette, and Holoba literally executed the game plan to a T. Now, Holoba tested positive, not steroids. Basically what happened was because he's so big for the weight class, 145 pounds, sorry, he took an IV after the weigh-ins,
which is banned right now.
And he disclosed it himself.
Oh, what an idiot!
Idiot.
Never tell them that you're cheating.
Never tell them nothing.
Especially those.
You plead the fifth. You always plead the fifth. Always. We don't even have that in Canada.
Especially with the IV bags. There's been a couple guys who got caught on the IV bags, and it's just like, I don't know if they would be able. I guess your
There's a
level,
chemical property in the
plastic? The saline. Your levels of saline would be high for I don't know how long. I'm not a doctor here, but I feel as though you can plead the fifth on that one.
You plead the fifth for sure.
I don't know why they're completely. I guess it's just to stop people from doing extreme weight cuts, but
to stop people from doing extreme weight cuts. But I think all the same, if you're a fighter and you just got blasted, and after the fight they're like, "Yo, that guy was on anabolics," it's like, dude, I could have beaten that guy. Yeah. In this case, like, dude, that guy used an IV after the
weigh. That guy had saline in his veins, man.
I spend a lot of time at regional shows, and let me tell you, most guys use an IV.
Of course.
Like, that's what you do after the weigh-ins.
Before they banned it, like, there used to be, one of our former guys that worked at our old office, he used to be like, does anybody know where to get an IV here in Toronto? Like, anytime the UFC was here in Toronto, like, there was always fighters looking for somebody that would administer that to them.
I was hanging out with the Neil Forster.
That's what I was referring to.
Well, Kyle Noak against Patrick Cote in Montreal, or Quebec City. Kyle Noak's management, they're like, bro, we need an IV. If you ever see Kyle Noak in the weigh-ins, he's dead.
And you see Kyle Noak in that Quebec City fight against Patrick Cote.
But he went 3 rounds. Why? Because of the IV.
Exactly.
He would have been hospitalized otherwise.
All right.
They would have just given him one.
So Barzola all day. He's going to get the takedowns.
Barzola, if you look at the fight with Chris Avila, if you look at his last fight, he gets, 8 takedowns. If he wants to take you down, he's so unbelievable. You don't see a whole lot of Peruvian fighters. You really don't. And I know last week with Kennedy, I said, listen, you're in a situation where you're Argentinian, you're not surrounded by great fighters. How are you really going to make those marginal improvements? But Barzola's full-time at American Top Team. And in fact, he's been doing this camp mostly with Renan Barão, who now fights at 145 pounds, as well as Adriano Moraes, who is the ONE FC flyweight champion. He's surrounded by great guys at ATT. He's so unbelievably strong. It doesn't really translate into his punching power, but if he puts his hands around you, he's going to take you down. I think he takes Bessette down at will. Meanwhile, if the fight, for whatever reason, does stay standing, you've seen a lot of improvements in Barzola's striking, namely the Bochniak fight where he lands 55 significant strikes, but he outstrikes Bochniak, just moving forward.
Should have won the fight, clearly.
If you've seen the way this little guy's head shaped, cast iron, baby, he can take a hell of a shot. The only one thing I would worry about is catching him in a submission. Bessette's got a good submission game, but all the same, I've seen Barzola beat better grapplers, and I expect him to roll here. I think he'll get the finish. 8,600 is a very good price because...
87, but yeah.
Sorry, 87. If it goes the distance and he just gets multiple takedowns, by the way, he doesn't take you down DC style like you were saying. Doesn't take you down and hang out.
No, he'll try to move around.
he will pound you. Doesn't matter if he's in half guard. Doesn't matter if he's guard. He will just pound you. He'll get the points. Ground transitions, I'd love them. Takedowns, I'm going to take.
And he's going to be under-owned, I think.
I got a gut feeling that Bessette will fold up somewhere in the first or second round, and he'll get the finish too. So I like him. He'll probably be heavily owned, so that's the buyer beware there. But he's a good price, and I'm going to play him. If he loses, blows up in my face, I won't have him everywhere, but I'll have him in a lot of places.
Fair enough. Finally, we got Islam Makhachev, 9,100. Gleison Tibau, 7,100. Makhachev is a minus 240 favorite. Gleison Tibau can be had for plus 200. Makhachev is Khabib's cousin. They're boys. They train together. He has a similar style to Khabib. He isn't to the same technical acumen as his cousin yet, because nobody else is. But I imagine the improvements are coming. Yeah. He has been clipped. He got knocked out by Adrian Martins in that one fight. So that is a bit of a concern that you could have with him. But Gleison Tibau, at the best of times, is not really a murderous power puncher. No. He's more of a grinding kind of guy. And a lot of this weighs into into Makhachev's game plan. That being said, Gleison Tibau, we go back to the early days of Khabib, when Khabib was not the same guy that he is right now.
Very long time ago.
And that is the fight that everyone pegs as like, Khabib probably should have lost that fight. A lot of people in the MMA media and everything had scored that 30-27, some people had, for Gleison Tibau over Khabib. Khabib ended up getting that decision, got the dub, but this was, what, 5 years ago. Gleison Tibau is now 35 years old. 34. He's coming off of, I think he's 35. Either way, we're nitpicking.
Apples and oranges.
You're nitpicking here. He's 34, 35 years old. He's coming off of like 2 years off with a USADA problem, like taking juice or juicing. He was always a crazy muscular type of dude. I never really knew before USADA was into the fold how this guy made the weight at 155 pounds. Now that he can't really, he was doing something. This guy was taking diuretics or something, right? Like to get, like he was 180 pounds on fight night. And he was weighing, the amount that he would grow in between weigh-ins and the actual fight was astounding. All of these things wrapped into one. On DK, I'm a little, this is a wait-and-see approach. I want to see Tibau at the weigh-ins. I want to see what he looks like, how shrunken he is. I'm expecting him to be a little bit shrunken.
Even if he is shrunken, though, you like Makhachev on
I still like him to win.
I like him to win, but DK...
I like him to win. I may take a few shares, because if Tibau is just a shell of himself at this point, if he comes in looking like Dad Bod Vitor, right?
He won't.
He's gonna get taken down. He may be able to get back up, and he's gonna get taken down again, and it's gonna be rinse and repeat. Makhachev's style is DK gold. I want to have a little bit of Makhachev here. I'm fading Cormier.
Yeah.
But I think if all goes well and Makhachev is able to land these takedowns, and Tibau's good enough to get back up, that was my worry with Volkan. Remember? Is that Volkan may get taken down by Cormier and be like, oh man, I got nothing to do. And then, there's not enough points there. I think Gleison would be able to get back up, and we get rinse and repeat. Lots of takedowns, lots of points. Islam is my pick, but I haven't completely finalized my strategy, because I want to see what Gleison looks like. If Gleison comes out looking like 200-pound, 155-pounder, maybe we rein it in a little bit. Either way, I won't be touching any of Gleison Tibau. I would just, take a little bit less shares of Makhachev. What's your take?
Yeah. Before I forget, actually, I'll talk about this fight, but Dan Ige, we were talking about earlier, full-time in Extreme Couture, but prior to Khabib's last fight, got a picture of them together, and he's like, my boy Khabib fighting night, gonna win easy. I was like, shit, these boys with Khabib? Shit, gonna beat Julio Arce. Back to this fight now. Islam Makhachev, his boys at Khabib, because they're blood related. If Khabib's blood even runs a little bit through those veins, he should be good. Gleison Tibau, you can never overstate this guy. He's got to win the first 2 rounds and then squeak out the decision.
Because he's going to be tired.
Because he always gets really tired. I mean, you look at any of his number of fights, and in fact, this guy won a split over Piotr Hallman in Brazil in a fight that he seriously gassed in the 3rd round. His fight with Norman Park, split decision victory, didn't look good in the 3rd round. Tony Ferguson's going to Tony Ferguson. He kills him. And technically speaking, he got a DQ because of that steroid. positive test after his last fight with Abel Trujillo, but he looked great against Abel Trujillo. It's the 2 years off that you're taking. We see this all the time, you know, guys, not necessarily 2 years off is going to be make it or break it, but the difference between being 32-year-old Gleison Tibau and 34-year-old Gleison Tibau is fairly significant here. There's no doubt he's had so many fights in the UFC that he was getting near the tail end of his career anyways. He had never been submitted before, and all of a sudden, we see him get submitted by Tony Ferguson. He had been submitted so long ago, I think Crew Pellegrino caught him. But you go 7 years without getting submitted, and now Tony submits you. He went 7 years without getting knocked out because he last lost to Nick Diaz so long ago, and then Michael Johnson knocks him out. The cracks were starting to appear on Gleison Tibau. He's the godfather. If you're Francisco Trinaldo or you're Michel Prazeres, I built my career based on Gleison Tibau and what this guy can do.
Both of those guys have better striking than him.
Yeah. The one thing I am worried here with Makhachev is Makhachev's last number of fights. You look at that Nick Lentz fight, you look at even the Leo Kuntz fight, you look at any of those fights where he just, the Chris Wade fight where he gets dropped hard in that first round, but he rallies in the second and third. It's because he can get the takedown and he can break your will. And Gleison Tibau, because he's so short, so stocky, and a very good grappler, it's very, very hard to take him down. You got to open him up with the striking. Tony Ferguson opens him up with the striking. Michael Johnson, obviously a much better striker. If you got to outstrike him, and Makhachev hasn't really shown me enough to make me believe that he's some type of great striker.
But he's in the gym with
Yeah,
Khabib
but Khabib's a great
on a
wrestler.
daily basis.
Khabib's a pretty okay striker.
Makhachev's a great wrestler too. He just isn't that level.
And Khabib couldn't take down Tibau.
That was years ago.
Makhachev's 26 years old. He's still just a bae. He's still getting older.
Tibau was juiced to the gills in that fight.
Who knows?
This isn't a discussion about Khabib.
We'll never know. I'll end it at this here. Islam Makhachev, I would pick him. But the value doesn't make sense to me because we don't know what we're getting at a Tibau, and that's very thick for my liking. If you're looking at it from DK perspective, if he doesn't get takedowns, where are the points coming from? And if you're looking at it on a straight money line perspective, you got to put up a lot of money to get any type of money back. And so I would probably lean towards the side of avoid this. But as far as Toutmaster goes, where I have to make a pick, I'm going to get that point on Islam Makhachev.
There we go. Kind of just to wrap it up here, I'd just kind of like to go through the whole card, just kind of say where I'm looking, where I'm, you know, what fights I'm targeting, what fighters I'm targeting, what I'm fading. So Ngannou versus Miocic, I think you got to have a little bit of both. I don't think, if Stipe Miocic wins, I'm convinced that he's on the winning lineup. I don't think you can say the same thing for Ngannou, so sure. I think you got to have a little bit of both, but I would probably have a little bit more Stipe on DK for DK purposes.
Coming over to the dark side, are you, Paul? Oh, well, coming over to the dark side. That's what it sounds like to me.
Part of that hedge life because I've got Ngannou on a four unit bet. So Cormier, Oezdemir, I'm fading Cormier. Just the price tag is high. He doesn't necessarily pay off that price tag all that often, even when he wins. Oezdemir, it's just like that's a GPP hard flyer. You can take a couple shares if you're making a lot of lineups, but buyer be warned because this could end up real poorly for him, finally, because the guy's been, in my opinion, still overachieving, but he's burned me so many times I don't want to touch it all that much. Love me some Burgos, fading Jean Villante versus Barroso altogether. Thomas Almeida is my boy. Not really touching much of that Bochniak fight. Bochniak just doesn't fight at a high enough pace that I think there's going to be very much scoring there. Alhassan, let's go, baby. Let's get those points. Let's have a complete gangbusters war again.
That he wins.
Ortiz, I like as a dog. Dan Ige, I like as a dog. Barzola, you're starting to get me to come around on Barzola. And Makhachev, let's just wait to see what the weigh-ins look like. What's your final take?
Yeah, fair enough. Well, just looking at the lineup really quick, yeah, I like Stipe. The price is right on him, both Moneyline and DK. I do like him. Daniel Cormier, 9,200. I know what you're saying, it's a lot, but look at Daniel Cormier, the guy he's normally fighting. People say, Volkan Oezdemir is a big power puncher. Is he a bigger power puncher than Anthony Johnson? Is he? Does he hit harder? Because I've seen Cormier get dropped and then prop right back up and win the fight. Like, I know he can take the shot. The war with Gustafsson, he can get into a war.
You don't have to sell me on anything anymore.
But for 9,200, straight betting line, I like it. And for the 9,200, I would give it a play.
All
Burgos, I think we're on the same place. He's just got to be a little smarter and less hittable than he normally is, but gets the job done. John Villante by decision. Let's go, baby. DK, avoid that shit altogether. Thomas Almeida, Rob Font, I'm avoiding that fight, actually. I mean, my heart tells me Almeida gets the job done, but I got a bad gut feeling, and the gut feeling tends to be right on a lot of these. Brendan Davis over Bochniak. I flip-flop, but I'm going to go with Brendan Davis. DK lineup, I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of DK points, but with the minus 125, don't mind that. Alhassan, yeah, I agree with you. Gets the job done probably in the first, second round. Dustin Ortiz, that's our dog. Dog money there. Very good price on DK. More of a cash game play than a GPP play, but all the same, I think he'll score pretty good. Danny E gets the job done over Julio Arce. Enrique Barzola all day, all night. And then Islam Makhachev, Glycerin Tibau. Again, bad gut feeling. I think he'll get the job done, but he's not a minus 240 favorite, especially because the line appears to be still headed in his direction. I'm just not really sold on it. But again, you got 11 fights.
He could come out there with a dad bod, though. He could look like dad bod Vitor.
That's true.
He's around that age. He's coming off of this, the USADA violation.
And on a
that's why I'm saying wait
card,
for the weigh-ins. Like I want to see Tibau outside of TNA Impact, or I guess Anthem Impact Wrestling. I've seen him a little bit on that.
It's still called TNA. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but on a 12-fight card, which is now an 11-fight card, I typically like to get no less than 3 underdogs. And I like Stipe as an underdog, and I like Dustin Ortiz as an underdog. Dan Ige would be my other underdog. However, if you're looking for an underdog, let me tell you, the one-man show, Chael Sonnen. Come on, plus 160. You get to watch that on Saturday as well.
You like Chael?
It's Rampage. Rampage barely squeaked out Satoshi Ishii.
You like Chael?
Unless it's fixed, because I got owned.
It is probably fixed.
I got owned on a fixed Chael Sonnen fight.
Chael Sonnen versus Ortiz was totally weird. Like there was, as soon as I got burned on that one.
Never again.
I don't bet these veteran fights anymore.
Matt
Mitrione does not count as a veteran in this veteran idea to me because I think he's actually still grinding, hoping to get better. But like a bunch of what else? There's Ken Shamrock got knocked out by Hoist Gracie. It's give me a break.
Kimbo Ken is
give me a break. Get me out of this. That one was weird. Like these legend freak show kind of fights. I don't know if I would classify Sonnen versus Rampage as freak show, but they're weird, man. I can't touch them anymore. I can't bet them anymore.
Well,
Rory versus Lima is gonna be awesome.
That one, yeah, I was all over Rory. The more I'm watching it, the more I'm thinking about it. Price is not right.
Chandler probably gets the job done.
That'll be greasy, but I like Chandler, and Aaron Pico's a 7-1, which I don't like. But we're rolling on the Pico train, baby.
Are you? You're parlaying them up?
Hells yeah. Hells yeah. I love Aaron Pico.
Well, there you go.
I get that he lost his debut. I get it. And that's the only reason this isn't 12-1 and it's 7-1. And I'm going to hit it at 7-1.
They are setting him up to get the W. They always have set him up to get the W. And you got let down in the first time.
You got to parlay it.
I'm gonna let you have the fun with that one.
Don't run up the price on Pico. So you sit on the
Chael Sonnen. You're betting Chael Sonnen.
He's plus 160.
Yeah, but do you see how girthy? You see how girthy Rampage looks? Like he's like 6'3", 239 pounds, like Trump.
Yeah, but he's in very bad shape. He's got no knees, and he always talks about this. Man, why do I gotta fight? When this got announced, he
Chael may get hit once and just fold though.
Okay, outside of the Anderson fight, which might have been a flop job. The second one, the first one, who knows? Might have been a flop job.
You never know with Chael.
You'd never know, but traditionally speaking, he's got a really good chin. Like he could take a hell of a punch. So it's greasy, but I'm willing to play the plus money on the greasy. Also with Rampage, when this fight got announced, he wasn't like, sweet, Chael Sonnen, I'm gonna smack him up. He was like, man, Chael Sonnen? I don't want to wrestle with Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen's
I got Rampage there.
Chael Sonnen,
I'm not going to bet it, but I got Rampage.
Pace. Okay, fair enough. But would you bet Rampage for minus 200?
No.
No.
I think I saw like minus 165 or something the other day.
Dude, remember his last time
I wouldn't actually bet. I'm not betting that fight. Stop trying to put this evil into my brain. I'm not touching it, Cody.
All I'm saying is because you're down to 11 fights on the UFC, most places cap their parlays at 12. Why not put some Bellator action on?
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's our Bellator.
I'm not looking to bet $2 to win $4. I'm looking to bet $2 to win $6,000, right? I'm kidding. Everybody always a flyer card, a punt card. You just put every fight on it. You need a couple dollars.
Is that tracked?
I got
third-party tracked.
We should start tracking them.
Yeah.
I'm on, well, it's first card of the year, but I've been doing good the last couple months, so we should probably look into that.
There you go.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, another good card coming up, so let's keep the good times rolling.
That is it for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Pat Mayo behind the glass there, and Cody Saftic, my co-host, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.